Welcome to The Real and the Woo. I'm your host, Lauri Stern. Join me as I invite experts and friends to discuss a range of topics, from the factual and practical to the mystical and magical. Consider this your virtual happy hour filled with lively, authentic, and meaningful conversations meant to inform, inspire, and ignite your curiosity. Whether you are very real or super woo, this podcast is just for you. Welcome to The Real and the Woo. I'm your host, Lauri Stern, and today we are moving up to the solar plexus. I wanted to record this for a couple of weeks now and exercising my personal power. I've chosen to focus on some other things, just take some time away from solo casting. So I'm so glad you're here with me as we move up to the Manipura chakra. So we've discussed root, our sacral, and now we are in our third wheel, our solar plexus. The color's yellow, and it's fiery like the sun. In my classes for my students and with my clients, I often refer to this chakra as our Freddy Krueger fireplace, which sometimes is scary. And sometimes it's just a stove, right? So it can become scary if we abuse our power. It becomes wonderful if we use our power in the way it's meant to be used, which is just like when we cook food. We dial up the knob to maybe sear some food or just simply cook it. We dial down the knob for just simmering, right? But in general, what do we know? We have an internal pilot light, just like you would on a gas stove. It's always lit. It's always available for you so that you have the ability to dial up when you need to or dial down. And I say abuse your power. It all starts with yourself. So if you're a person who pushes, burns the candle at both ends, doesn't love to rest, and you're a doer, then just like any other battery, it's eventually going to burn out. You're eventually going to burn out. And that's one way there's an imbalance in this chakra when it's too fiery. Conversely, if you're always on a simmer, then decision-making might be hard for you. Your personal sense of power is boundaryless. Boundaryless? I think that's the word. You have trouble with boundaries. And you just need a little more fire to get shit done. So dialing from the root, our area where we matter, we are grounded, we are secure when we're in balance there. And then moving up to the sacral, where we express our emotions in a balanced way, our creativity and our passions. When you take those two in balance and you move up to the solar plexus, then you have the ability to decide and discern what version of your power shows up. So this chakra, the affirmation statement is I do. So I also refer to this sometimes as the Nike chakra, because sometimes we have to just do it. Sometimes we get to do it, right? So there's very different energy when you say have to versus get to. And as mothers, as leaders, as whoever we are, teachers, healers, humans, the most arduous of tasks really can change. And that's what we do in this chakra. This is our ability to transmute and transform energy, decisions, emotions, and we use our discernment in order to do that. And just by choosing other vocabulary, that creates other energy. When my mother was sick, or anybody can relate to aging parents if you're in the sandwich generation, or even just a new mother, right? You're changing a diaper, whether it's an adult diaper or your baby's diaper. We forget that is a get to. I get to take care of my mother. I get to take care of my child versus have to, right? Of course, when you're having diaper changing experiences, it's the same with how we think about our work. I have to go to work, or I get to go to work. It's a very small but profound change, something to consider. So the affirmation statement, like I said, is I do. Well, how do you do what you do? Do you overdo or do you underdo? Are you okay with asking for help, asking for directions, or do you feel like you have to do everything on your own? So balances and imbalances. I always just love to bring these up. One of the things that I wrote about for this chakra, there's a couple. Unfortunately, a few months ago, I lost one of my oldest and dearest friends that I've known since junior high. Prior to her passing, I was invited to her 60th birthday dinner. And I wrote this whole thing, and I'll put the link in the show notes. But the decision to go or not to go, to be or not to be, but the decision to go or not to go was a no-brainer for me. But it isn't for everyone, because she invited me and I know her, but I didn't know anybody else in the room. I was going to walk into somebody's house whom I didn't know and be surrounded at a table of people that I didn't know. But the beauty of the invitation was that my friend knew me and knew that I would fit in, or just knew that whatever I had to share meant something to her. And so I chose to go and get over my own fear, whether it was big or little. In this case, it wasn't so big. But there's a lot of people that won't even go to a dinner party or a party unless they know exactly what's going to happen, what the food might be, who the people are, whether they know them or not. And so this chakra is all about control. And what do we know about control? I mean, it's ridiculous. We can't control so much in our lives. All we can control is ourselves, our ability or our inability to speak, to decide, to feel secure or not. And so in this situation with the dinner party, I didn't care that I didn't know anything. I just had the faith that I was going for the right reasons. I was wanted because I was invited. Right? So sometimes I guess people, I know I've been guilty of this too, we do have obligatory invitations when you're having like a big party or whatever. I have to invite so-and-so because I'm inviting so-and-so, or I have to invite so-and-so because that person invited me somewhere. Putting those things aside, when a friend of yours asks you to show up, fucking show up. And it's not because you never know if this is your last meal with that person, although because they believe in you and your right and their desire for you to be there. So for anybody out there who typically says, I'm not going to go unless I know X, Y, and Z, just consider from whom you receive the invitation. And let that be enough that they believe you have every right to be at that table. So sometimes showing up is just the practice. It takes confidence, which is also all about the chakra. So confidence or lack of confidence, power, willpower, or lack of those things, knowing how to dial up your knob, knowing how to dial it down. I can enter a room pretty fiery, which to me means like energetically, but you also have to learn to read the room. I know I do. So I've learned to read the room. Sometimes, however, I just show up in my authentic space, which is, hey, I'm so happy to be here. La, 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 let's go. But not everybody's like that. Showing up in your authentic self might be you show up quietly. And hopefully no one is forcing you to be someone that you're not, because that takes you out of your comfort zone. That takes you out of your sense of confidence. First, understanding who you are. What is that authentic version of yourself? Root chakra, sacral chakra, other chakras. But when you do show up, do you have the confidence to remain in that authentic place that is yourself? Hopefully the answer is yes. Okay, so more about this chakra. At the root, do I feel safe? At the sacral chakra, do I feel allowed to feel? And here in this chakra, our solar plexus, do I believe I can? So it's all about what we can or cannot do. The charges and the cringes and the way we might feel something hit us here is literally at our guts. So the phrases that you might hear, trust your gut, it comes from your gut, or I have that gut feeling, or I get nervous and nauseated in my gut if something around me is wigging me out, depending on what is happening, it might hit me in my solar plexus. So I've said this before, and I'm going to keep driving it home. Our bodies are our best barometers of what is happening within us because of external circumstances. So if you walk into a room or you're at work or you're with your kids and you get that funny feeling in your gut, listen to that. It's telling you something's not quite right. You might not know what it is in that moment. Hopefully it's nothing really unsafe. If it is, get the hell out. But pay attention to that. Why did you feel that in your gut with that person or in that situation? And in a really fun, positive way, when you meet someone that you love or you're just meeting for the first time and you get butterflies in your stomach, that's also your body's barometer telling you, this could be my person. I really like this person. I'm getting butterflies in my stomach over this person. That's a great thing. This is all about your ability to trust your gut, trust yourself. This is also where you have a sense of identity. So at the root chakra, that is our right to matter and own the skin we're in and just literally be here on the planet. Sacral chakra, our right to have our emotions and experience and express those. Solar plexus is where we identify who we are. A lot of us identify who we are by what we do. I like to remind people, identify who you are by how you are. You're being human versus doing human. Do you have personal authority? Do you feel empowered? Or are you lacking those things? Are decisions easy for you or are they difficult? And I know it might depend on with whom you're trying to make a decision. Where are we going to go for dinner? That's a great one. With your husband or your kids, it might be an easy answer. When you're creating a girls' night out, sometimes it's not such an easy answer because you're waiting to hear what other people are saying. You don't want to be the boss. You don't want to always make the decisions. But if nobody's making a decision, from your solar plexus, we learn to step up and make the decision. So if things are at work or with your friends, and this is a great example, this dinner party conversation or, girls' night out conversation, if nobody's making a decision, step up and make the decision, right? In that same way, if you never allow anybody else to step up and make a decision for a girls' night out or at work or at home, then you're too fiery. You're too dialed up in this chakra, right? We need to be able to give and take these decisions. You cannot be a good leader and always make the decisions, in my opinion. You need to collaborate and consider other ideas and other opinions. In that same way, you cannot be an effective leader if you never make a decision. And how we make decisions and how comfortable we are with those decisions is here, but it also bubbles up from the other chakras as well. And we haven't connected to the other ones yet, but it's a trickle down theory also. So this is also about courage. Do we have courage? Do we have confidence? So another Substack I wrote about this particular chakra was through the lens of the Wizard of Oz. The name of it was The Road is Yellow for a Reason. The Yellow Brick Road. The story of Wizard of Oz. Dorothy's tossed out of her home from the tornado. She wakes up in this foreign land called Oz. And to me, it's a whole allegory about our chakra system. There's so many stories like this, and this is one of my favorite ones. It's a beautiful way to look at real stories that we know and then how to reframe them for the chakra that we might not know so well. So another reason why this connects when you think about the Wizard of Oz through the chakras, just the first few, the tornado comes and Dorothy's literally tossed. Her whole home is tossed and plopped into this place she's never been to before. So she shows up untethered, unrooted, insecure, fearful. And then through expressing her emotions, her fears, her worries, her desire to get home, and of course they're singing, so that's expressing her joy, they're told to take this trip. She and Toto start this trip down the yellow brick road. And why is the road yellow? Well, she's exercising her power, her decision-making skills, who she's gathering along the way with her, the scarecrow, the tin man, the lion, deciding to travel with them, taking their lead, they're taking her lead. So there's this give and take of asking for and receiving directions, collaboration, traveling with others is a good thing. Of course, she wants to get to Oz because she's told that this wizard's going to get her home and the other chakras come into play. But when I wrote this, it was really a way to explain this chakra because confidence comes in after you make a decision. And then the fire in your belly comes into play when you're enacting the decision. So you've got a decision and now you're doing it, right? That takes confidence. That takes willpower. That takes flame and a spark. And we think empowerment feels bold and certain, but most of the time it feels like walking into a room alone, like I described in my friend's dinner party, or walking on a road on which you're unfamiliar, like in The Wizard of Oz. It sometimes looks and feels like saying yes before you're sure, but also it comes into play making a choice no matter what. So notice if when you're making decisions, you are inadvertently looking for applause or validation. Are you confident and comfortable in your decisions for the decisions themselves without any sort of condition after the decision? So there's a whole other shadow side to this chakra through the Wizard of Oz. So remember, we can say shadow side, it's an imbalance. So there's the side we see and the side we don't see, the side we present and the side we hide. And in the solar plexus, the side we hide is performative power. I just sort of described that doing your job because you want to be seen and recognized for it, which of course is a natural human inclination. But if you're only doing a job to get the reward, that's not an authentic, in my opinion, reason to do the job. And guess what? That applause or that recognition is going to go away sometime. It's like the tree in the woods. Does it make a sound? Probably. Are you going to do the job when no one's watching, no matter what? Also, the shadow side of this chakra is inflated control. How controlling are you? I talked about that earlier, but it really comes up here. Wizard of Oz, she's completely out of her element. She has zero control where she is or how she's going to even get to Oz. All she knows is she's been told to take the road to get to Oz, and she goes. She trusts and she goes. If she were the kind of person who couldn't go without knowing exactly what was happening every step of the way, she never would have gotten to Oz and she never would have gotten home. And real power, when we're using it in a balanced way, sometimes is quiet. We just know what we know, we trust our decisions, and we're just going to go. We're just going to go on the road. So it's how we try, it's how we show up, and that's important. Going down again, ways to recognize how this particular chakra is not in balance. You second guess yourself constantly. You wait for permission. You apologize for existing, and you say no because you're afraid not to. So I want to pause to talk about apologizing for existing. I already mentioned that your identity or sense of identity is here. There's something called grief hijacking, and I've written about this too. If you haven't noticed, I write a lot. Grief hijacking is when there's terrible stories that you see on the news. I think I wrote this particular piece when Camp Mystic, the tragedy at Camp Mystic happened. And everybody was upset about that, especially if you've been to camp and send your kids to camp like I have. And you start seeing texts from friends that they're sad. You start getting phone calls that they're sad. That's fine. Let's be sad. Let's call a spade a spade. It was awful. But there's a difference between expressing your sorrow at this tragedy and finding empathy and compassion because you've been there, you've been a camper, you send your kids to camp. But grief hijackers take that up a notch. They have no sense of their own identity. And so what they do is they make a tragedy all about themselves. So it's not just a phone call. Oh my gosh, I'm so sad. Those poor people, those poor families. I can't imagine their fear and their sorrow. You can't imagine it because you've kind of been there, but you're really not there. You're nowhere near Texas. Maybe you're not even a camper, and you call up a friend of yours, or you make a long ass post all about how it could have been you if you'd lived in Texas and you sent your kids to that camp. Or it could have been you because you know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody who actually did send their child to camp and that child passed away. That is your solar plexus and your sense of identity being completely out of control. And you can hear I'm fired up about this because I have a few people like this. They cannot just take tragedy without turning it into making it about themselves because they need to feel important. They need to demonstrate by doing grief, by doing sorrow and worry, that they prove to you they're a worthwhile person because they're at such a level of grief as if they were there, but they weren't there. It's just such an imbalance in the solar plexus chakra. If you have a friend like this, if you are a person like this, ask yourself, are you making the call to talk about this tragedy to somebody else because you want to be consoled because you're feeling upset because it's upsetting? Or are you making a call to somebody else to talk about this tragedy because you want to make it about yourself? And worst thing you can do in this situation is to call somebody who is actually experiencing their tragedy and starting to talk about how the same thing happened to you or the same thing happened to somebody else you know, and on and on and on. It's not about you. Let the tragedy be about the person. Learn through your solar plexus how to demonstrate with your personal authority and your personal power a reasonable amount of compassion and sorrow through connection without making it about yourself. Okay. So, one of the other imbalances to the chakra is too fiery, too high. So, that's when you micromanage. That's when you dominate. That's when you cannot receive feedback. And that's when you measure your worth by achievement. Or, in just this example I just gave you, you measure your worth by demonstrating how emotional you are over something. Balanced solar plexus energy looks like deciding without drama, showing up without shrinking, letting others shine without your feeling threatened. That's huge. And resting without guilt, which is also huge, right? So you've got to recharge your batteries or you're going to burn out. Let's see. So I told you the chakra's yellow. I told you the affirmation statement is I do. Oh, the ages. I didn't really describe the ages for you. Let's go back to the ages. Root chakra 0 to 7, sacral about 7 to 14, the chakra about 14 to 21. And where are you when you're 14 to 21? Well, you're somewhere in school and you're starting to make decisions about where you might continue going to school if you choose to, and making decisions about not going to college, right? So, right around 18, you're making those decisions. Were you able to make those decisions easily or not? Did you feel like you had to go to the same school as your parents and you did that? And then you got to school and you hated it? Or wherever you went to school, you felt like you had to go into the same degree area that your parents did and you hated it? You were not exercising your sovereign power to make your own decisions. And I get it. We've all been there. As children, we want to honor our parents. You know, you love their passion about their favorite school and you think going there will be fun for you. Great. But if you think going to that school will please your parents, that's not so great. You have to please yourself. You have to please yourself. And if you cannot decide what feeds you, what lights you up here in this chakra, then you've got a huge imbalance here. If you are a person who's constantly needing to be told what to do, where to go, how to do it, you've got an imbalance here. Conversely, if you're a person who never takes directions, is not coachable, and not approachable, you've got an imbalance here. 14 to 21, we might be entering into our first relationships with people. And if we don't feel we matter and we don't understand our emotions or understand how to control our emotions very well, then you get to meet somebody and your emotions all over the place. Or you take on their identity. You love them so much and you don't love yourself so much. So you take on their identity thinking that's what love is. Maybe you were modeled that through your parents or grandparents, or maybe you've watched too many shows on TV that demonstrated love means giving up yourself to take on the identity of somebody else. Of course, people who steal other people's identities, that's terrible and awful. And they probably have an imbalance in this chakra, to say the very least, and several others. So when we're right in this area, 14 to 21, starting to make job decisions too. Why are you choosing this job? Why are you accepting this job? And are you confident during the interview? I talk about this a ton. Power pose, hands out like a V, standing with both legs out like a V, taking up your space. This is a great thing to do before a big conversation, a big interview, anything that you need to boost your confidence about before doing it. Try this. Sometimes I even flick my fingers like I'm lighting fires with my hands, or I'll jump up and down. Anything to sort of lift your flame if you feel a little too low and you need a little confidence boost, that's a great thing to do. But if also you're already here and you walk into that interview like you're a freaking know-it-all, do you think you're going to get that job? Probably not. Okay. So again, how you show up across the table from somebody else, whether you're at a dinner party or at a job interview, is all about how you show up for yourself here in the solar plexus. Your ability to decide, your ability to exercise your confidence and your self-control, and then knowing when to dial up those things and when to dial down those things. Okay. So I'm just going to offer you an easy 5-minute guided meditation. that connects with this chakra. So if you want to sit tall or find a comfortable seat, if you're driving, don't do this while you're closing your eyes. Just pause this and do it later. But if you can, and you're safe too, just close your eyes and take a seat. Take a few deep breaths. Come into your body. Place your hand just above your navel. So this chakra resides about from the navel center just to below the low ribs, right? So it really is the fire in our belly, truly. So just notice as you're sitting here, are you already dialed up too high? And just imagine you've got a stove knob of your own and just dial your flame down a little bit. If you're feeling a little insecure or you're lacking some confidence, even just sitting here, then in that same way, imagine that knob and just dial it up a little bit just to feel maybe a little warmth in the belly. And keeping one or both hands on your belly, just take a nice big slow inhale through your nose and sigh it out through your mouth. And do that again. Just inhale and sigh it out. Continue breathing in a way that brings you a sense of calm empowerment. Just notice what's going on with you, not only in your solar plexus, but anywhere else. Are you sensing any tightness? Are you noticing warmth or anything cool? Or do you just notice nothing and you're just observing, which is wonderful too? So, if when you're getting into any meditation, you immediately switch into the doing mode, notice that. Perhaps the practice is just being an observer. Take a few moments to notice, are you doing or are you being? And then imagine there's just this nice golden sun right at your belly. Its rays are contained within you for now. Just feel that warmth, feel that glow. And then if you're ready, you can start to expand your light and see what happens. Perhaps you're imagining your belly becomes like the rays of a sun, and you're ready to expand as far out as you want to, decide to. And notice as you do that, do you start to feel your body reacting in any way that is fearful or uncomfortable? Bring your rays in toward yourself a little bit until you feel comfortable and confident, shining just as you are. Perhaps with each inhale, you just notice the glow within yourself growing. And with each exhale, you release anything in the way of your light, your power. If you want to expand as you inhale even farther out, and as you exhale, keep expanding your light out. Notice how that feels. Notice where it resonates or creates something uncomfortable. And then bring that flame, that sun, back to where you can manage it and feel comfortable with it. Be one with it. So you don't always have to burn more brightly. It's enough just to know you've got this internal glow always. And one of the ways we can express our authenticity is to grow that glow outwardly or to keep it for ourselves inwardly, because that's how we demonstrate our authenticity anytime. So you can sit with that for a few moments or a few minutes. If you're ready to move on, or you've come back to listen to me move on, I want you to take another inhale right into your solar plexus. And as you exhale, I'd like you to release the need to be chosen. I want you to take another inhale, and I want you to release the fear of being seen on your exhale. I want you to take another inhale, and on your exhale, I want you to release the belief that who you are is not enough. And just keep breathing. Noticing again if any of those words, to be chosen, to be seen, to be enough, created some sort of reaction anywhere in your body. Make a note of that. Just come back to your breath. And now I want you to picture yourself standing at the beginning of a yellow brick road. Just see it expand out in front of you, however the road is designed by you. You don't know where it's going to lead, and you don't need to. See yourself taking just one step forward. Just feel the ground beneath your feet and say to yourself, I am capable of taking this step. Not because you're fearless, and maybe you are, but because you're willing to take the step. And as you walk down this road, whatever pace works for you, you could say to yourself as you travel, I trust myself. I can handle what comes. I already have what I need. I show up. And if you want to keep walking down that road, keep walking down the road, notice the scenery, perhaps notice anyone you gather with you. Maybe you've determined a destination. Perhaps you've already changed the direction for a new destination because you have the power to choose where you're going and how you're traveling. And when you're ready, whether you've arrived at a destination or you've come back to the beginning of the road, I'd like you to just come back into your body, into the room where you are, and take some deep breaths. If your hands went elsewhere or dropped to your sides, you might want to put one or two back at your solar plexus and breathe right there. Just feel the warmth behind your hand. That's your power. That's your pilot light. That's your internal flame that is always there for you at the ready to be dialed up when you need it and dialed down when you need to. And when you're ready, just open your eyes and just see how you feel. It's a really good time to jot down some notes, especially if you were able to connect with where some of these ideas or images resonated within your body. root or sacral or anywhere else. And if you'd like to share where those things were, or you don't know what to do about those things, that's why I'm here, to help you decide to feel better and to understand yourself better so that you can travel along any road you choose with more alignment and empowerment and whatever amount of light you choose to shine anywhere and everywhere you go. So I hope this was helpful, even though I know the road I took you on was a little twisty and windy. It was both fiery and soft, and that's life, right? We get charged up, we get dialed down, we worry and we wonder, and then we settle because we know who we are, hopefully, and that we matter always. So you matter, your emotions matter, and your identity and your power matters. Thank you so much for listening. I'll leave everything in the show notes below that I mentioned. And again, I am here to be your guide and your teacher, your energetic wellness coach and practitioner. Whether you want to work with me one-on-one or a group of people or your corporation, I customize pathways that connect with the journey you're meant to be taking that will bring you to the best ride and destination of your life. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me.